at it. Perfect.
Okay. Sorry about that.
That's all right. You know what? It's like I had the same issues with a few other guests, and it's so annoying because it's like the issues, of course, will only present themselves once we're actually live.
So then, should I just have StreamYard open and not open YouTube, or?
Yeah. It sounds like just leave StreamYard open.
Okay.
Yeah, or if you have YouTube open, I guess just you would have to have the muted or something. But this is perfect now, so I would leave it like this.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Just if anyone has a question, you can just let me know about it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's a shame. I guess are you don't see the comments on the bottom of your StreamYard? Look on the side. Do you see, like, do they show you the comments on your end?
Let me see. Oh, I see them.
Yeah, cool. All right, great. Yay. So yeah, StreamYard's actually pretty, like, is a good interface. So, all right, we'll start over. So again, I am Brittany Rue, a slightly twisted female, and this is my highly anticipated guest, Kai Decadence. I have been wanting this interview for such a long time, and I'm so glad that we were able to convince him to come on. Kai has a YouTube channel, and he has a really interesting perspective. And as I was just telling him backstage, I think of so much of what makes people interested in hearing from him is because he is a gender non-conforming man who has, in a post-transgender world. And so I look forward to hearing more about his experiences, sort of staying above the fray and not getting sucked into gender. So Kai, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for having me.
All right. So as I said before, I think I wanted to start off with showing a clip that Kai posted to his YouTube channel. It's a 2-minute clip talking about Blair White, and I think it's such a good, sort of lead in. So let's take a look at this little clip that he added on his channel, and we can talk about it. Okay, let's see. Oh, here we go. Add a stage. Alrighty. And then where is this one?
Now, for those who are about to try to tell me how wrong my views are and how I should look into quote-unquote good trans-identifying people like Blair White, I'm actually fully aware of him, and I'm sorry, but he's just as delusional as the other trans-identifying men that he calls out. He may not be committing amoral crimes against women and children, but at the end of the day, he's still delusional and thinking that he is anything but a man. Sure, he says things like how he acknowledges that he was born male, but it really means nothing when he's still inferring that he's not a man. He may not call himself a woman, but he calls himself a trans woman, which is covertly insinuating that he is a kind of woman, which he is not and never will be. The term trans woman is an oxymoron in and of itself because the only way to be a woman is to be an adult human female, which trans-identifying men are not. Blair White, in my eyes, is just a self-hating gay man who thinks that dressing in a hyper-feminized style while filming his face with a beauty app filter and good lighting is what makes him a kind of woman, and I'm sorry, but no. As I've already explained before, women are not costumes or a set of attributes that a man can buy and just become. And Blair is no exception to this, because even if he did pass, it wouldn't matter because he's still a man, albeit an effeminate one. So again, in my eyes, he's just a self-hating effeminate gay man who knows his way around a makeup brush and uses a beauty face filter and body shaping filter, who shines a spotlight at the more socially egregious trans-identifying men to keep attention away from himself. And he mostly does this to keep people from questioning why they shouldn't see him as any different from the other delusional men who think that they are women just like himself. I don't know if it's because I'm a feminine gay man myself, but I can absolutely see right through it, and I refuse to indulge in it. I'm gonna end it on this. Don't you find it very telling how he has never once had a debate with a so-called TERF? If he really believes in the stuff that he preaches and thinks that transgenderism is legitimate, why hasn't he debated with the TERF? The answer should be pretty obvious.
Yes, I love it. That was so, like, succinct and perfect, and it's really refreshing. it's really refreshing to hear that sort of analysis, like from, again, like another gay man really calling him out. What are your thoughts? So, like, maybe if you want to elaborate on that a little bit more, and what sort of impact do you think that men like Blair White have on the gay community, especially, you know, more effeminate homosexual men?
So I just feel like that the way that the community views him, like saying that he's like the true trans or whatever, is that it's such a thing that gay men, that they're feminine presenting more specifically. They're better off just becoming women because their position in the gay scene is not very favorable. Because the drag queens, for example, like, yeah, they are popular in the entertainment field, but in the dating world or social interactions outside of the gay scene, it's not the most comfortable or forgiving position to be in. And with Blair, it's just after I looked into his past, from old live streams he used to have that he deleted or privated, or I don't know, they just disappeared. He divulged a lot of information about himself and how he was growing up and how he was dealing with life as a young gay adult before he transitioned. I just could see the writing on the wall that he let all the negativity in his life just get to him and cloud his mind, and I don't know, like made him feel that if he became a woman, his life would improve. And I feel like when other effeminate gay men watch him and see how he is and how he's presented and how he's perceived, they're gonna feel like they should go down the same path as him if they want to get true acceptance in the real world, both in the gay world and in, I guess, the heteronormative world. And I do understand it because it can be hard sometimes. I'm not going to lie. Just trying to traverse the world as a gender non-conforming man when the world just... I don't know how do I say this? I don't know if it's the most accepting place for feminine gay men who, actually look at too, like not just the behavior, but also their appearance. Yeah, because like I've said before, like I almost went down that path like many years ago. And it took a lot of, self-reflection and perspective to not fall into that same trap as he did. And I just hope that me just being around can at least try to show to gay men, specifically the younger effeminate ones, because I've seen so many younger ones say that they feel lost, and Blair is like a voice of reason for them. And looking at how he lives his life, they feel like that may be the right path for them to take. And I don't know. I just hope that they see someone like me, who's just living his life, trying to, get on by without deluding myself into thinking of I'm something that I'm not. It may just reassure them that you don't have to go down the trans path to live a fulfilled life, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's such a toxic message that he's sending to young men, that again, it's like rather than expanding our understanding of what men are and what men can be, and this sort of like wide range of different presentations and different personalities that men can have, it's that at a certain point you're literally no longer a man. You must become a woman. And I think that's really toxic. And I think that especially it's like the effeminate gay men, especially when you think of like the homosexual transsexuals versus autogynephiles, and we know that like homosexual transsexuals are more likely to get bottom surgery and things like that. And I think a lot of it is they make these sacrifices on themselves to please, their partners or, their sort of like intended, like who they would like to attract. And it's this sort of like form of self-harm versus like an autogynephile that keeps all the fun parts and like wants to keep like have his cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, like I can definitely say with the HSTS, I know for a fact it is because of the dating. Because I'm not sure like how well versed you are with the gay dating dynamics when it comes to effeminate gay men. Because I'm not sure if you heard of there's a saying that used to be a thing on gay dating apps. It's called it was like no fats, no femmes, but also like mass for mass, so masculine for masculine. And then, like, followed by that, they'd be saying things like, "Oh, if I want to date someone feminine, I date a woman." And I feel like for an effeminate gay man, they keep seeing that routinely. That's why they start to question themselves and be like, "Well, I am just being myself, and I just don't feel the need to conform to the masculinity because that's just not who I am." But if I'm getting all this pushback from men in my scene where I can't even be seen as desirable, then maybe I am a woman, and I'm sure that plays a part in their delusion. Because like especially with Blair, like because I'm actually working on another video about Blair, just a more full scale one that I have in the works because there's just more I want to cover about him. And I remember he did a video where it was back when he used to go by the name of Robbie Fagatron. That was his username. And he did
that whole channel is definitely something else. Like the whole.
I think that was like his MySpace name too back in the day. But he made a video like giving out about his frustrations in the dating world. I don't think a lot of people saw that video because I think he privated it or deleted it or something like that. Someone just reposted it, and that's what gave me some insight into where he's coming from because I'm like, oh, okay, this all makes sense because you're going through it too. Like you're finding guys that they were being put off by how effeminate you were and how you look. Well, he looked like a sane kid back then, but that was an effeminate look back then. And yeah, I felt his pain in that one, or I don't know if it was pain, but frustration. Because yeah, like I'm been there, I'm still there, and I'm gonna probably be there for the rest of my life. But I do understand him. But I just transitioning is not the answer for this because all you're gonna do is you're just gonna find guys who are gonna be like not honest with themselves. Like you've seen Joey, like he thinks he's straight or whatever because he's with an effeminate man. But I guess like with these bisexual dudes, or I don't know if he's gay or whatever. I just know he's not straight and he's very closeted, and they are not honest with themselves. And I just think it's very sad and unfortunate for like guys like us, or I mean I guess trans-identified gay men, that in order to be seen as acceptable to a partner or a male partner, they have to lie about themselves to soothe the closeted guy's ego. And it's just, I don't know, I cannot imagine living life like that, which is what helped me see perspective of I'm not a woman. I know I'm not and I don't want to have to keep thinking about that if I'm with a guy like that. Like, you know what I mean? It's just not genuine, not authentic. And
yeah, it's kind of like what it's like I can go through all this like lengths to like attract the guy, but then it's like once I get him, then it's like once you attract somebody on a false pretense, like you're saying, you have to keep upholding that, and it's like, is it really fulfilling? Is it really worth it if you have to continue to live a lie? Like,
yeah, like a good example of this is I don't know, I can't remember if it was on the Truly channel or Jubilee, but it was it was a recent video. It was like this quote unquote alpha male is dating a trans woman, but he's still alpha or something like that. Like,
oh my god, yeah, I should pull it up really quick.
Yeah, that's a good example of this in action.
That was, oh my god, yeah.
Because like you can just read on the HSTS's face that he's not very happy when he would be hearing the guy talk about like how he's with the woman, and I know that deep down the HSTS knows that's not true, and he just feels really uncomfortable and unnerved every time this guy has to reinforce that to him because like you don't even believe it.
Right. It's like we both know, yeah, and it's almost, and it's got to be hurtful because it's like that's actually not who I am. So you like are claiming me and love me for who I'm not, that like we both know I'm not. Here, I found it. Hold on, let's look like a little clip of it really quick because I think it's so pertinent to what we're talking about here.
Right.
That's such a good one to bring up. Let me pull this one. Let me pull that. Yeah. Like, I just think it's good for younger gays to, like you said, have these examples and have an older, effeminate gay man who can look at them and say, you don't have to do that to yourself. Like, you don't have to self-harm and you don't have to live a lie, because it really is. It's gay conversion therapy. Like, we're back here. It's like we've become, it's like horseshoe theory. You become so accepting that we literally have become like, almost back around now to the same exact strategies of like Christian conversion therapy, except now it's the LGBTQ conversion therapy.
Yes, the queer community.
Right. Queer conversion therapy. And it's super sad. There we go.
This is Jesse. He fell in love with Cassidy.
I'm a proud trans woman.
Wait, listen to the music. Of course, it has to be like heavy metal. Like you gotta overprove that this guy's like real masculine, bro. And it's like how little is his ego that we all have to sit there and like affirm that, like, yeah, he's super masculine.
They're like, it's fine. Not the delusion, but like, it's 2024. You're in a gay relationship. It's fine. Like,
Yeah. Such a code. Yeah, it's like, sir, live your best life. Like, you and your boyfriend go on, go to the beach and do all these great things and live your best life and stop like coping so hard. Hold on, we gotta check this out.
Jesse was raised in a strict conservative family.
One thing I was definitely taught was a natural woman is who you're supposed to be with, and if you're with anybody else, you're going to be out of this household and out of this family.
And their relationship has caused a stir with loved ones.
The main misconception that people have is that he's gay.
I was very apprehensive.
Right.
I didn't know that he was open to having a relationship with a trans girl.
I'm Jesse, and this is my partner, Cassidy, who's a trans woman.
Jesse and I met off of Instagram. The first thing I saw was muscles. And so I was like, okay.
I actually messaged her and I let her know that she's beautiful. We were about 3 or 4 messages in, and she said, hey, I just want to let you know that, I'm sorry if it changes the dynamic of things, but I'm a trans woman. And I said, no, sweetheart. You don't have to apologize for that.
He was like, even better.
Jesus.
He was like, perfect. But like, what? But again, why do we have to see the trans-identified males in the kitchen cooking and he's like working out? Like,
it's very stereotypical. Yeah, just if you just look at the guy, like, it just tests his expressions. It's just like it says it all as he keeps talking.
It's all gender roles, and he even just said, "I grew up in a strict Catholic or Christian environment where, like, I was expected these gender roles," and that's a way that we can keep up the heteronormativity without and while still being who we want to be.
Yeah, it's definitely a transhomophobia.
Totally.
On a woman. It was a beautiful moment, and we kicked it off ever since.
We faced a lot of judgment when we started our relationship. I think the main misconception that people have with our relationship is that he's gay. I've received the whole load of hate comments, being like, you'll never be a woman, how dare you? A lot of religious comments too about how I should kill myself, you're going to hell. So this one says, sir, lipstick and heels doesn't make you a woman. You can't change biology. You can't change chromosomes. You are just an insecure guy who didn't accept his body, so you did plastic surgery. Keep living in your fantasy. It definitely gets to me sometimes, but I can't let it affect my day because I'm used to it. At the beginning of it.
That's exactly what you just said. Like, after a while, that's got to start to grate on you. Yeah,
it's like you're slipping in and out of reality. And like, you got to try desperately to not, follow the delusion. Otherwise, you feel like your life's going to be over. And like, in this case, this guy's going to leave him. And it's so sad.
Yeah, and it's like it's like anytime someone points it out, it's like he probably cringes because he's like, no, stop saying that to him. I don't want him to snap out of it and kind of actually see me for what I am. And it's like you got to be on edge all day long performing.
Yeah, like see, this is what I'm talking about. Like this, I cannot imagine having to live your life like that. Just, I mean, I would say more power to him, but it's just. It's not helpful. It's just sad, lonely.
It is sad.
Lonely. But yeah,
it is lonely. It's like it's like knowing that the person really doesn't actually love you for who you are. Like you can't just let your guard down and drop the act and just come home, kick your shoes off, and just be yourself. It's like you got to keep like performing all day long. Yeah, playing a role.
I couldn't help but think it was my fault for all the backlash that Jesse was receiving. But we persevered through everything, and it was something that really made us stronger.
My upbringing was probably a little more intense than the most. I was brought up around a very masculine family, very toxic masculinity household. I was always taught to act out, be the tough guy. Natural woman is who you're supposed to be with, and that's it. And if you're with anybody else, if you're gay, if you're ever with a trans girl, you're going to be out of this household and out of this family. My friends and family, at first, they were shocked because the alpha masculine tatted up male is now dating a transgender woman. My family was worried about their reputation, not mine. The whole entire world's gonna know my son's gay. He's dating a trans girl. So we're gonna FaceTime Jordan right now. This is a best friend of mine who's been through with me through all points.
Oh, like, yeah, and I feel like that pretty much tells the story. And it's like, yeah, it's exactly what you just said,
Yeah. And the sad thing about that is that there are tons of guys like him who specifically go for, not even trying to identify men. Like I've gotten some of these guys trying to get at me in the online dating scene. And I'm just happy that, when I was able to find, gender critical content like way back because let's see. I started getting comments like that, like, because on Grindr, on Jack, like, all the gay centered hookup dating sites and stuff. And I remember after seeing like the no femmes, the master math, like I started doubting myself a little bit too. And I am being myself, and I don't really have interest in trying to force myself to be masculine. So maybe I am a woman. But then like a beacon of light shining to like some sanity, I came across Magdalene Burns' channel, and it all just was starting to make sense. Even though I remember when I first stumbled onto her channel, it was her non-binary video, which I was like, yeah, I agree with her, because even back then, I never accepted the non-binary thing because it just didn't make any sense. And the sad thing is, I remember when I first heard that term, I was like, huh, that's interesting. I wonder what that means. And I was like, I looked at the pictures of these people. I'm like, oh, so they're just gender non-conforming people. So maybe it's a modern day term for gender non-conforming people. But then when I looked more into it, and I was like, oh, I'm actually not a man or woman, I was like, okay, no. Like,
yeah, no, I don't want to start getting delusional.
And so so I found Magdalene Burns' video on that agreeable. I was like, yeah, that makes sense. And then I can't remember, but I think I came across, it was this video on an older HSTS, like, what was his name? Steph Sangiati. It was like, why do you hate trans women video? I remember when I first saw that video, I was like, I didn't know what to think. I was like, well, hold on now. Like, how could she?
What was the premise of the video?
What was that?
What was the premise of the video?
Oh, so it was like this older HSTS who was like making a video directed at TERFs. He was like saying, it was pretty much like, why do women, aka feminists, like hate on trans-identifying men like him? And just coming up with all these like shallow viewpoints, like, oh, is it because my boobs are not big, or is it because of how my face looks, or just very superficial traits. And
wants us. They always are like, sorry, what's the problem, honey? Did you catch a man with too many, trans girls? Like, sorry, sis, learn to cope. And it's just like, no.
So like, my film was just like, just hammering down that reality, just be adult human female, but you're not, so you'll never be one. And like I said, when I first saw it, it was like the first time I came across something that was gender critical, because like I wasn't really a TRA necessarily. I didn't think about trans back then. I knew that there were people that thought that, but there just wasn't that many people, like especially in the early 2010s. There weren't that many trans-identified people out there, at least online, or you'd have to really go out of your way to look for it. So that's why it didn't really occur to me until I saw that.
That's
and
how I was.
Yeah.
And I mean, you don't have to answer, but how old are you?
I am. I turned 3 this year.
You did? Oh, you're a baby. Yeah, so like, you and I aren't like too far off, right? So like you probably were in like middle school, high school when I was in college, which is, again, it was a time when I was starting to hear it more, but I was like, nobody would ever actually want to be that. You know what I mean? I was like, you must be really mentally ill, because it's like, and people always look ridiculous when they try to become the other. So I'm like, I thought it was so fringe. I could never imagine that people would actually want to like catch this on and want to, join this. It just made like no sense to me. It's like,
yeah. It's like my impression of it was like, Jerry Springer. Like that's where that's why I first saw like, the whole trans thing. But again, like they were so uncommon that I just didn't really sit down and think about it, because like, okay, I don't want to say nut job, but just like, they're just doing it. And as long as they're not bothering anyone else, which, how naive I was, because, they invade women only spaces. So that's obviously not good. But yeah, again, I just didn't think about it. And God, where was I going with this?
You were just saying that before, you weren't like a TRA. We were talking about the older HSTS guy, and you're like, I wasn't a TRA before, but you were starting to like be more aware of what was going on.
Yeah, because and needless to say, after I watched that video, I left. I was just in shock, because like, she's saying the forbidden stuff, that you're not supposed to talk about, because they say you never question a trans person. Like that was the rhetoric. But I was intrigued. I was like, but there are something that she said that made sense. So I looked into more of her videos, and I would keep rewatching her videos until it started making more sense. I'm like, okay, yes, this is all making sense. Because a thing too is that like, I remember like what they would tell like gay men like myself, if you are actually trans, is that, well, do you feel like a woman? And I'm like, I don't know what that means, because I think, because growing up, like, because thankfully I grew up in the late 90s, there were still tomboys, not these trans-identifying women who think that they're like non-binary or whatever. And so I was exposed to non-conforming women at a young age, and so I was like, but they're still girls. So when I would hear, how do you feel like a woman, and they go out followed up with stereotypes like, makeup, dresses, performing femininity, I would think back to the girls that didn't do that when I was in school. I was like, so are you going to tell me that they're not women then, that they're in denial? I was like, no, I don't think so. And also I think what helped too is that my brother had a friend who was lesbian and non-conforming, and I remember like, I don't know, I would say NSFW, like, it's not like anything serious, just it helps give me some insight into the lesbian mindset. I remember like it's like lesbian porn, and like I remember she told me that like she didn't like lesbian porn, like a lot of lesbians she knew didn't like it either, and I was like, I wonder why. And she said, oh, it's very performative, just very like male gazy, and that's the first time I heard that term. And I was like, oh, well, that does make sense, because like this friend, like she was not like butch, but she wasn't like hyper feminine either. She was kind of like in the middle. And as she explained, like, like lesbian porn, I was like, she said it just feels very like it caters to men, like, the makeup, heels, like, the lingerie. She said it doesn't do anything for her. She said it's not uncommon for other lesbians to feel the same way about that. And I was like, okay, yeah, that does make sense. So yeah, but anyway, I just would think back to the non-conforming lesbians and women who were straight too, that didn't practice femininity. And I was like, yeah, then how do you feel like a woman then? Like, if these women are performing their role, So
What?
are they not women either? So I would always have that in the back of my head when I listen to these HSTS and AGPs talk about this. And when I started questioning myself, I was like, well, I'm just myself. And also I remember I thought, would I be thinking about this if in a perfect world, gender non-conforming men were not seen as like, weirdos and freak shows of the world? Like, would you still even be entertaining
Exactly.
becoming a woman? And I was like, no, I wouldn't. I'd be comfortable. And I mean, I'm still comfortable now at the time, but I just wish that it wasn't so like, volatile in society. But yeah, and that's what helped me like keep my sanity. And so from there, I've watched more gender critical content. Because this is like around, I want to say 2015. That's when I first found Magdalene. And so I came across like other channels like Peach Yogurt and
Peach Yogurt gender free.
yeah, and she used to go by Man Cheese the Great, I think her name was. She used to go by Diana the Defender, and she did this like awesome takedown of ContraPoints' autogynephilia video, and she also did a video on Blair as well, and it was such a good one too. But then it got taken down. But Blair, it was Trisha Paytas.
Do you know who?
Trisha Paytas.
Yeah.
So it was when she came out as a trans man, and Blair did a video on her, and pretty much saying that like she doesn't believe her because like you're not making an effort to look like a man. You're not cutting your hair, you're not taking testosterone, you're not growing out hair, facial hair or body hair.
And you're sitting there thinking, you're like, but I don't, you know what I mean? It's like, but I'm a man and I don't fit all of those like boxes that you're saying. That's why, it's so good for people to have references like you. And like you mentioned, the butch lesbians that you knew, because when people are like asking these things and you're like, wait, but I know women who don't check those boxes, and wait, I'm a man who doesn't check the boxes. So
yeah, well, the very ironic thing about that is, they say that, trans is not about how you look, it's just, your feeling. I was like, so Blair, why are you like getting on Trisha's case? Like, even if she is a troll, like, who's to say if she really was or not in that moment, like, just to humor her for a minute. It's like, you said it's not an appearance thing. So like, why does it matter what she looks like? If she feels like a man, then shouldn't she be a man? Instead of just means she's early in her transition and she'll mask it out eventually. Like, it was very good, and that's why I'm so sad that video got taken down or whatever happened. It just disappeared because it was such an insight into. Even Blair buys into the thinking that it's all about your appearance, even though he says otherwise. But I mean,
right.
Look at himself. Like, if it really.
And that's the thing, and that's why it's like it's so when you really sit and think about it logically like that, because again, trans requires other people's participation, right? Even if it's just other people having to perceive you a certain way, right? And I always make this, when people bring up like, oh, well, what about, gay and lesbian, and you just, have to accept. It's like somebody can be gay or lesbian alone in the woods and without anyone knowing or whatever, and that's still what they are. But it's like, being trans requires that like the world around them has some sort of, it's all very like relational. Like, I need you to perceive me as, a man or a woman, or you to, use my pronouns. And that's what will make me who I am. Whereas if you're gay, it's like, I don't need you to affirm me. I don't need you to acknowledge it. I don't need you to do anything. It has nothing to do with you. I actually need you to like not do anything and like leave me alone, unless you're interested in talking, getting to know me. Otherwise, like, you don't need to participate in this whatsoever.
Right. That's why I get so annoyed when people say that, oh, well, the gays are what brought in the window for these trans to take over. And it's like, not really. Like, all that the gays wanted was just, let us live our lives. We won't intrude in your lives. Just, just leave us alone. Let us do our thing. Like, and, let us exist. Because, like, our existence does not intrude on your life in any way. But with trans, it's like, it does. You have to, like, they want to use your spaces, or, men using the women's spaces, lie about reality by using the she, her pronouns, or the he, him, like, for opposite sex people. And it's just, that is an invasion of someone else's life, because they have to go out to make you feel comfortable. And it's not comparable. That's all I can
Can
say.
you talk a little bit about, like, I don't know what your, social life is like if you go out or if you do spend time either at gay bars or, kind of in the gay scene, or I don't know if you're like on any dating sites or, whatever, and whatever you're comfortable with sharing. But like, what have you had to encounter any, like, let's talk about like the women who fetishize gay men and like trans identified females and like kind of like how they involve themselves in the gay scene.
Okay, so socially, I'm more of a homebody. I don't really go out that much. I'm trying to think like, I used to go out a little bit more with my brother and his friends because I was just always more of a loner. But no, besides that, I was always a homebody, so I don't really have experience in that regard. Or gay clubs. I've only been to a gay club like maybe 2 times in my life, and like I am on dating apps, and that's how I've been on them for gosh, a very very long time. Like I think I joined in 2009 once I turned 18. And I remember because I didn't always look like this. Like back then, I had more of a, I guess, more androgynous look. But I started catching wind of like, the whole no femmes, the master mass thing. And I was like, okay, well, no biggie. It just means that we're not a match. I'm going to keep looking and looking. And I just started noticing that, it's very rare to find like, gay men who are interested in like, feminine presenting men. And this also counts for feminine gay men too, because a lot of feminine gay men, they do prefer a more masculine or masculine leaning kind of guy. So it does make dating as a feminine gay man, well, I'm not gonna lie, like difficult. But I noticed though that while I wasn't really attracting a lot of gay men, I was attracting a lot of like, bisexual guys, but they would call themselves straight. So like, bisexuals. And I remember too, some would say that they were interested in trans women. And I was like, well, I'm not a trans woman, so why are they coming for me still? So that's what gave me some insights in that, oh, well, I feel like they just want the D.
Right. Well, and that's the thing too. And a lot of these homosexual, transsexuals need to realize is that, what the bisexual and the DL dudes and even the chasers are looking for. They want the outside aesthetic of a woman, but they want down here to still be male. And it's like people don't realize that you're not actually getting a vagina, first and foremost, when you have sex reassignment surgery. It's not sex even that's a misnomer, and it's a misleading misnomer. You're not getting sex reassigned. It's a sexual simulation. It's sex simulation surgery, genital simulation surgery. We're trying to simulate the appearance of the opposite sex genitals. But a lot of the times, once they get that surgery, it's like you're eliminating, what these men who are interested in that aesthetic actually are looking for. And then, straight men want a real vagina. So it's like you kind of like kick yourself in the balls, like, by doing that. And, I don't know. Supposedly with
guys, they say that they can't tell the difference. And I'm like, well, either you don't really enough with that much women or I don't know. I'm just, how? Because I was curious. I want to see what these things look like when I would hear it. I'm like, it's I don't know how to say it, it's a mess down there. Like it's just,
if anybody wants to like really like strap in and go for a wild ride, go to Kiwi Farm. But don't make sure you've had enough time between your last meal. Make sure you're safe somewhere. And go to Kiwi Farm Stink Ditch thread, and it's a whole thing of like botched SRS, and it is bad.
Yes, and like because you gotta dilate it, it grows hair in it, and it's just how is that attractive?
Oh my god,
vagina. It's just no. But like, unfortunately, like that alpha male dude. I was looking onto Twitter because, like, obviously there was a lot of pushback on it, but apparently the HSTS he did get the SRS because someone posted it of them going at it, and I was like,
what's the point then? Isn't that the fun of it? It's like having like a little bit of both. Like
yeah, like that's why I'm like I mean, he could have just got with a woman if it was really about the V. Though I'm pretty sure maybe that he did have for a while and like, you know, to have fun with it or whatever. And then like I don't know, maybe he talked him into it or he just did it, but it was sad. But anyway, yeah, so I started noticing again, like, you know, the whole master mask, no femmes, and it started getting more intense as I started experimenting more with my look, like, because I want to go for more feminine look, and I would be getting these like these down low guys, and I mean, I did meet up with some, you know, because, you know, experiment and whatnot, but eventually, like, you know, I want to try to get a relationship, you know, a real relationship. But then I started noticing that a lot of these dudes that they say they love men like me, or trans identified or not, because like I said, I never identified as trans, which is why are you coming for me? I'm not a woman. I don't think I'm a woman, but they still came, and yeah, they just wanted to have sex and hookups, and that was it. And like, you know, they didn't want to see you in person, or not see you in person, I meant see you in public, like, you know, go out on a normal date or anything like that. And again, this is I know Blair went through this too, because he kind of hinted to this in his video, in that Robbie Fagatron video, where like they just want to meet him, like, you know, for sex. And so I again decided to feel like some gay men who become HSTS, they feel like, well, these bi guys. Oh, because that's another thing too. Like I remember some guys I would talk to about this, the bi guys, they say that, oh well, ideally they want to be with a woman, but they'll still maybe see guys on the side. And right. I remember you talked about this in your it was that guy you Brianna Ivy, right? I remember you said like you knew a guy, or you and your boyfriend knew a guy who would sleep with men on the side, even though he
I used to hang out with this one guy who was bisexual, and it was so awful because he had this like sweet, religious, really like kind of naive, like quiet, very polite Puerto Rican girlfriend, came from like a strict like upbringing, and they had a, you know, child together, and like he had his nice wholesome family life with her. And he's like, yeah, she's not very sexually adventurous. He's like, but I love her to death. I would never leave her. Like, she's my world. But then he was just constantly sleeping with men, like behind her back. And it's like, how selfish can you be? And it's like, you know, and like you're saying, I feel like a lot of these homosexual, transsexual, or these effeminate gay men, after a while, and I don't know if you agree with this, or like somebody said that a lot of homosexual transsexuals, one of my gay commenters said a lot of homosexual transsexuals are actually like not as super promiscuous, and they want the kind, you know, they don't want to live that kind of like party lifestyle or hookup lifestyle, and a lot of them, you know, maybe are a little more conservative and want to have like like a wholesome one-on-one relationship. And it's like, it's hurtful for them to kind of constantly being discarded and sort of like, you know, run through or being strung along by these men. And so that's why, you know, they start to really push and lean into the being a woman, because it's like, you know, these, like a lot of these men who are like, oh, well, women are the ones that I'll provide for and create the life with and build the nest for and stuff, you know, but you're just something fun on the side. And that's just so hurtful after a while.
Yeah, 100% you got it. Yeah, like I definitely agree with that, because like, I mean, for myself, I don't think I'm necessarily promiscuous. Like I have hooked up with guys in the past, but like I always would see one person at a time. It's just that they wouldn't really last long, like maybe like weeks, maybe a month or two, and then like this they be bored, want to move on to the next person. Yeah. And God, where was it going?
Just like, you know, like you're saying, like the sort of dating that you want versus what men were like kind of seeking you out for.
Yeah, like it's red flag if they want to meet you after hours in not a public space, like, you know.
Call you past like midnight. Like, what are you doing? It's like, no, I know this game. Like,
it's especially you catch on and you're like, oh, okay, I see what's going on here.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah, like you're right. Like I think the only trans-identified or, you know, effeminate gay men who are like obsessed with like, you know, the hookup lifestyle, like I noticed that they get into like I don't want to say sex, like, you know, prostitution, like, or prostitution, like, you know. But I would say, yeah, like a lot of the feminine guys I've come across, like they were like you said, they wanted like, you know, a traditional relationship, like, you know, usually monogamous. Like they want to be the submissive, and they like in the gay scene they would say the woman, but I don't like to say it like that. But you know, the submissive, and they just weren't getting it because these guys, like, you know, they're not seen as attracted to gay men typically, and the bi guys, like they usually, like statistically, they always end up choosing the woman over you, even if they get with you for a while. Like they don't take it seriously. You're just a placeholder until they find that right special girl for them.
That's the same complaint that I hear from a lot of lesbians who are like, I'm tired of dating bi women, because it's like, even if they love you and even if they, you know, have a better relationship with you, it's like ultimately, you know, from whether it's pressure from their families or just their own desire to, you know, have children or whatever, you know, they'll end up, you know, settling on a man, and they're like, it's just too much of a liability to even like date bisexual women, because it's like, it's just hurtful. You end up getting invested in that.
Yeah, it's sad. Well, it's kind of frustrating because like in the gay scene, like in the lesbian scene too, from what I've seen, is like these bi people, like they'll come out and be like, oh, if a gay or lesbian doesn't want to date a bisexual person, like they are being biphobic. And it's like, well, no. I'm like, well, I mean, I guess in a way, yes, but it's just this.
It's not phobic. It's just being like preservationist. It's like, you know, again, I don't want to just be like an experiment for somebody, you know.
Just the statistics are not on our side. It's just like statistically,
as like a bisexual, you know, and I even like if people get mad because I'll like refer to myself as straight, and like I always, you know, I get like lesbians like no, like quit the bullshit, you know what I mean? Because it's like, you know, but it's true. It's like, it's also, it is fair to not call myself, like I really shouldn't call myself straight, because if I call myself straight, but then I admit that I've like slept with women and had relationships with women, then it sends a message that like some straight women, you know, can be coerced and, you know, can be like pushed into doing things, and, you know, vice versa. And you know, same thing with lesbian women, right? And that's my also problem with, I feel like some femmes, like, you know, will call themselves lesbians when like they were really actually bisexual women, and it's fine.
Girl once.
right, yeah. But it's like, but like, you know, and it's like, but I do kind of get it, because even me, like I do typically prefer to date men, even though I've actually had relationships with women, and like I get it. Like I get it, you know. I don't hold that against any, you know, gay man or lesbian woman who's like, nope.
Yeah, it's sad because like I said, like for at least effeminate gay men, or with trans or not, it's like the bi guy is like the perfect ideal guy for us, because they're the ones who typically don't have an issue with, you know, our femininity or effeminacy. And it's just sad that it's just not enough. Because I remember like the thing that really drove this point to me home was, I remember like I want to say like maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, I met up with a guy, and we actually went to the movies, and I was like, oh, so we're actually meeting in a public place, like this is a step up. But then again, it was like night though, and it was like not a very busy theater, so I was like, okay. I started you know, thinking about it, and also like you can't get to know each other on a movie date, like, you know, because you're watching the movie. But what really drove it home though was after that we were talking, and I asked, so like, do you see yourself ending up with a guy in the future? And he's like saying, honestly, no. I'm a traditional conservative, because I didn't even know he was conservative until he told me that. And he was like, yeah, I want to have a wife and kids, but maybe I'll have a guy on the side. And then I was like, but
that's so like, why do people think that you've been yes?
And he's like, oh well, she doesn't need to know. And I'm like, oh no. And like the thing is that it's not like I haven't heard this before. I guess it was just different hearing it in real life. Yeah. and then he tried to make the moves on me, but I was like, you know, I'm not feeling this. I want to go home.
Yeah. It's like, that's not, and you know, and that again, after a while, like that just starts to grate on your sense of self. It's like, what am I, just like an object, you know? And I think it's hard because at the end of the day, being gay, you know, being a homosexual male or female, you know, already is a small dating pool, right? Even if you're adding in bisexual people, and then that even just adds more complication, really, right? So you're already, but then it's like it breaks down even further, because then you have, you know, masculine homosexual men, then you have effeminate homosexual men, and you have like and now I think even adding in the trans thing adds another complicating factor where now you got to compete with that. Like, do I have to now do I have to go get breast implants should I just throw in the towel and go that direction and just be like a fetish for people? And, and same thing with, again, a lot of lesbian women. I've seen a lot of lesbian women who are almost borderline vitriolic towards bisexual women, but it's like, I really don't hold it against them because I know behind that has come a lot of heartbreak and like crushed dreams and, being led on and, all of that sort of stuff. So it's so complicated. I just think bringing this trans thing into it just feels like such an assault on the gay community, on the LGB, and particularly the L and the G, because it's like, already trying to figure out who you are in the world. And then you add in, now you have all these doctors with all this technology and like, oh, here, we can make you into something else. And, some people are falling for it. And then it's like, then there's a new expectation added. And I just feel like that's just a lot to contend with, especially as like a young gay person.
Yeah, and even then, it's like, but only if you can pass, which like let's be real. Well, the trying to identify women made to pass, but testosterone is a hell of a drug. But like with the Tims, it's just no, it's all just makeup and filters. Like like Blair White, for example, again, like because he's a good example of this, because like everyone always defaults to him as the perfect trans, and it's like, because of how he looks, and it's like it's not real. But yeah, it definitely did a number on the gay scene or gay community. And
yeah, that's what Shinobu Kachal says. Thank you for always speaking about this, Britt. Transgenderism is decimating the lesbian and gay communities, and people aren't talking about it. And I mean, not to mention that it's like, yeah, again, even like I feel like for a lot of lesbian women who go and they do all these like hyper masculizing, like, like do all these things to masculinize, not realize that like women, other lesbians want a woman, even if you're masked and you're not, like you don't have to like perform femininity or like you said, be performing for the male gaze, but it's like not realizing that there is a woman out there that is right for you, and you're almost kind of like destroying what you guys could have been by trying to become something that you're not, when it's like
it's sad too, because from what I noticed, like I said that there's like the mass for mass and the no femmes thing in on the gay male side.
Yeah,
like just like with lesbians, like they're not as I can't think of the right word for it, but there's equal opportunity for them. Like there's love for the feminine and the masculine woman. So that's why I find it very sad when like some masculine lesbians feel like they need to become men to find a partner, and it's like, no, like you can find a girlfriend, like a lesbian girl who will like you for you, and you don't have to like do all this. So I think at that point it's either a trans misogyny or both a trans misogyny and homosexuality. If like they were living in like a religious household or something, and they still want the approval of their parents and or family. But yeah, it's interesting.
And I just wonder if like shit, what was I gonna say? Damn it, I lost it. I don't know. Damn it. It'll come back. So, all right, another challenge. All right, so this is another topic that I wanted to bring up with you. And this has been challenging me a lot. And I keep, and you are a complicating factor in me really developing my own stance on this, right? So talking about the whole Phil Illy thing, let me bring up the picture for those who still don't happen to know. So for those who have literally been under a rock and have not been paying attention to this channel or anything in the GC community, let me bring up this one. So there is something called GenSpect, which is this so-called gender critical organization, but they're under a lot of fire for really just kind of being like not actually gender critical, whatever. And they have a yearly conference. This year it was out in Colorado. Or I don't know if it's yearly, whatever. And however often they have it. And it's called, gender or like the bigger picture or wider lens or whatever it is. And there was a man who goes by the name Phil Illy who came as an attendee, and this is what he looks like. He's a self-proclaimed autogynephile. And I've said this before, and I still stand on this. I actually disagree that he's an autogynephile. I think that he's a transvestic fetishist, and I think there's actually an important distinction between the two. An autogynephile actually is not, it has clothing might be an aspect of it, but that's not the main thing. The main thing about being an autogynephile is actually wanting the body and the bodily functions of a woman. Whereas a transvestic fetishist, or basically like a fetishistic crossdresser, let me get this picture. Damn it, sorry. Is somebody who is aroused by wearing the clothes of the opposite sex. And I really, part of the reason why I think he's such a POS is because I think that he knows by calling himself an autogynephile, he's going to get more attention for himself. Like he wrote some book. Hold on, wait. He wrote some book called Auto Heterosexuality, where it's basically calling for like the normalization of autogynephilia as like a legitimate sexuality, which obviously it's not. And there was another gay man who went and debated him on Benjamin Boyce's channel and was basically like, it's offensive for you to call what, your fetish we can even maybe take a clip of that. But this was the picture that went like viral in the gender critical community. So on the right, as you can't guess which one is the man. The one in the blue dress is a straight man, and then Laura Becker is the woman standing next to him. Now, Laura Becker is like a notable detransition woman. But she's got a lot of issues with her, and she talks a lot about autoandrophilia. So anybody who doesn't know when we talk about trans women, what is sort of known as trans women, there is a theory that sort of breaks down into two primary subcategories, which is when we Kai and I have been saying HSTS, right? We're talking about homosexual transsexuals. Okay, so these are typically men who, for a variety of reasons, oftentimes internalized homophobia or gay dating strategy, have decided to transition to appear to be women, to attract men. And then there's another subtype, and these are men who are purely gay, right? Only homosexuals. Now, the bisexual men cannot be considered homosexual transsexuals. Now, when we have autogynephiles, or shortened down to AGPs, these comprise of heterosexual men and bisexual men. All bisexual men are AGPs, if we're going to take Ray Blanchard's theories as accurate. And so this is a guy who calls himself, I think that's part of like why he goes Phil Illy, like autogynephilia, Phil Illy, philia. It's like he's such a cornball. But so he has this book called Auto Heterosexuality. He showed up to this gender critical conference wearing this crushed velvet, 80s, homecoming dress and some armbands and some Reebok sneakers. And so, so there was this whole controversy about this guy wearing this dress. And a lot of women said it was a failure of safeguarding to allow this guy. He brought his book and was shopping his book around. Again, it's about normalizing. And we know that autogynephilia has a different etiology than homosexual transsexualism, whereas autogynephilia is, it's men who have an inward sexual target where they're attracted to the idea of being a woman. And it's almost like a masturbatory thing, right? It's they're the man and the woman at the same time. They have the male sexuality of a man and they're attracted to themselves as a woman. And but it's different from fetishistic transvestism, even though those could be comorbid things, where they're attracted to the idea of like some men, there's even like it breaks down further into different subtypes, like some men are attracted to having periods, the biological processes, lactation, that sort of thing, or they're attracted to the idea of having breasts, right? Or they're attracted to the idea of, you know, whatever. There's like a variety of different subtypes. So the reason why I bring this up with you, obviously, right? Somebody else had brought this up. So there was this big response and everybody's like, oh, this guy is gross. And then like, you know, we have like Karen Davis who's bringing up the idea of like vice laws to like criminalize cross-dressing, and everyone's talking about cross-dressing and like, you know, men who are wearing women's clothes, and we're all kind of like just like debating like what's the line. There was another post, and I want to see if I can find it really quick, where somebody there was all this conversation about this Phil Illy guy, and somebody posted a picture of a few other attendees who were there, who they're like, well, these men all wore dresses. Why didn't they have the same? Why aren't people responding to them in the same way? And one of the men was Shapeshifter. So Shapeshifter here, let me see if I can get a picture of Shapeshifter at the, because I want to be able to show these side by side and just kind of get into what is the difference between like fetishistic transvestism and then just gender nonconformity, and like why is it that we have such a different reaction to like gay men who are wearing you know, effeminate clothing versus like this guy. And it's like, how do we kind of understand and draw those like distinctions? And I think it's a really complex topic, and I know it's like a conversation that you've, you know, been a part of like in the chat on this channel, and I wanted to get some of your input on that. So while I'm looking for it, what are your thoughts about the Phil Illy thing and all of that kind of stuff?
So it's like
that was like a huge like
because I love crushed velvet, like it's my favorite fabric. But
yeah, no, it's a nice dress. It's like he's the problem here.
Well, I've always thought to myself, though I'll say why I feel like it kind of contradicts in a minute, but I always felt that, like, you know, like a gay man who is gender conforming and may wear women's clothing, I feel like gay men, like, we tend to put a little more thought and creativity into our looks. Like, we don't just throw things on just to throw it on and say, yes, I'm a guy wearing a dress. Like, we actually have looks in mind that we get inspiration from, like, you know, the creative side of things, like, you know, musicians, people we look up, women we look up to, like, you know, things of that nature. Whereas,
I'm listening. If I'm looking down, I'm totally listening to you. I'm just looking for this one tweet while you talk. So go ahead. Sorry.
No problem. But with autogynophiles, like, I just noticed that they tend to they don't dress with style in mind. It's just about the peen feels, whatever looks sexy and can get them off. Like, you know, they wear like the really short skirts and the hooker heels and the fishnet stockings, and just, I don't know what to say. It just comes off very fetishy, like with no style in mind. Or if it has style, it's just very prostitute look. And with like Phil Illy, for example, like, geez, it just feels like he just threw on a dress just to throw on a dress. I know that, like, you know, what more can you do? But, like, you know, like the shoes, for example, like, why would you wear like sneakers with a crushed velvet top? Like, you know, it doesn't look right. Stuff, or they don't match. At least in my opinion, it does. But I just
it's difficult. I really want to find this one here. Let me see if it was, because it was an interesting question, and it was true. It was like, why do we have such a different reaction? And that is part of it. It's like, I just think that it's like we underestimate how much humans really do have instincts, and how much women have instincts, especially for predatory behavior. And even if it's just like these small incremental like things that you can't fully articulate, you know, like, hold on, like things, hold on, let me see if I can find it. Jeez, let's see. Let me look for her. If I can't find it, I'll just let it go, but let me see.
Take your time.
You know, and what do you think is the line? Like, what do you think? Yeah, I mean, you know, you kind of explained it, like between like the sort of like fetishistic.
Yeah, I was going to bring up the, like, how I feel like my saying contradicts itself, because then you have people like, Debbie Hayden, for example, and he doesn't dress like a typical autogynephile. Like, he wears, like, I guess, for lack of better, sensible clothing. At least what the pictures we've seen of him. So then people are like, well, what about him? Or, gosh, he's like really the other one that comes to mind. I'm trying to...
No, exactly. Or there's the other one, the Katie John. I don't know if you saw the Katie John who was at the center of the like sister salon debate.
Yes. And also, like, I hear Jesse Gender too. They look like typical AGP. So I'm like, that is true. But another thing too I noticed is that, like, after watching these autogynephiles talk and stuff, there's just something not right. Like, if you say the wrong thing, they're gonna snap on you. And because even I feel that way sometimes. Like, even looking at this picture, it's like, even though I know he admits he's an autogynephile, and I know he doesn't. I don't know if he like expects people to call him by she/her pronouns. But it's just, if I saw him out on the street, I would be like, oh, well, he looks like he would not take it well if you misgendered him, even if misgendered him, even if he wouldn't. Whereas I feel like with gay man, like even with like shapeshifter, it's like I said, just God, like I just feel like we come across harmless and that we love women. I mean, obviously that's not true because there are plenty of videos of HSTS like threatening women, like threatening to beat them up when they get clocked and stuff.
Well, it's different, but it's like the threat is more of like, again, like I'll fight you, da 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 da. But the threat isn't them wearing the dress. Like there's something inherently that when you see a man like this, and I think that the only time that I think it is really degrading to women when I see like homosexual transsexuals like being so-called like gender non-conforming or just like really wearing women's clothes is when I see like drag queens, right? Because that just feels like a real caricature of women. But that's different than a gay man who's just wearing like gender bending. And I think the difference is it's like even, and I've seen some of your styles and it's like, even though like I've seen you with like some spaghetti strap stuff and you wear this like really cute, like long black, like boho, like skirt, like you said, it's like the outfits are really well put together. They look like they fit your body. Like you're slender and athletic and you're like slim and like toned and stuff like that, and the clothes, you still are picking clothes that like fit your body well, and you don't like your body yourself. You're not it doesn't feel like you're trying to dress like an imaginary body that's not actually there, and you're trying to like force your own body into it. Like, yeah.
I mean, it was not error, but yes, I try to find things that like can work with my frame. But
that's a shifter of shapes, and I want to bring up. Let's see, where is he? Is he not on anymore? No. Did Shapeshifter like go off of Twitter? Damn, yeah, that was a while ago. Let's see. All right, well, I just reposted one that was. Hold on, let me bring this one up, and then maybe I can like. Let's see. Oh yeah, people are asking if they can. Can I show some of your outfits of the day? So people are asking to see.
Oh yeah, sure.
Because I really do feel like there's just such a difference, and if people, and I think it's important for us to just not just say, oh, well, you can just feel the difference, but if we can start to like be able to articulate what the difference is, I think it'll be really helpful for those sort of discussions and arguments. Like again, because I thought I had like nailed it when I was like, all right, I know what it is, guys. It's men who are wearing clothes that are like specifically designed and tailored like for the bodies of women. But that still feels like the case with you. Even like, again, like even if you're wearing like spaghetti straps and stuff, it still feels like you're wearing clothes that are like fit your body, that are not trying to fit, your idea of your body if you had been a woman, right? Like that's what feels like the difference for me. Let me pull up
I go through a lot of effort to like not have any faux pas. Like, like if I'm wearing a skirt, like I just make sure to like, wear shorts underneath it in case like, wind gusts or anything like that. Cause I don't want to be exposed and stuff. So, because
skirts throughout history, like let's be clear. And somebody made this really good tweet where they're like, don't get it twisted. Men have worn, basically dresses and skirts throughout history and still do in different cultures but they're for men. Like they fit your, you know, male body, and that's the difference.
Yeah, like tunics and kilts and all that. Yeah.
Right. You know, and that's the hard, and that's like where I just feel like this whole thing really puts like this hard dilemma, because it's like I don't want to sit there and tell gender non-conforming men that they've got to like force themselves into a box, because that's part of the problem why a lot of these men feel like they have to become women, because it's like, wow, if I want to wear the things that I like to wear that make me feel good and make me feel, you know, confident, then I actually need to go get, you know, these invasive, dangerous surgeries. And that's not a message that I want to co-sign. But at the same time, it's, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, because that's why, like, you know, I do really respect Karen Davis. Like, I think she does amazing work for, like, the cause and for women's rights. But, like, you know, whenever she would talk about, like, oh, like, she thinks that male crossdressers should be, like, outlawed, like, you know, vice cops should come and arrest us. It's just, I understand where she's coming from, because after you look at autogynephilia and just how these guys act and what they wear and stuff, I totally understand why her, like, or even Vanessa Voki, like, you know, again, love her content. So even though she has said that she thinks that cross-dressing men should be outlawed, again, I understand it's coming from a place of deep concern and just, you know, safeguarding. But yeah, I just have to respectfully disagree. I just think that just keeping men out of women-only spaces, no matter how they identify or how they look, should be nice. And if they cross that line, they should be dealt with accordingly. Like, you know, get detained, get arrested, you know, all that stuff. I just think that that's the best middle ground, because I feel like if you do go back to that way where you just arrest any man out in public who's just, you know, dressing gender non-conformingly, it can help double down on the trans issue, where it's like, well, dang, now if I really want to look how I want to look, like, you know, for guys like myself, like, maybe we should become women to be seen as able to, you know, wear what we want to wear. And it's just clothes. Like, clothes don't make the person necessarily, but I don't know.
It just seemed like we almost were there. Like, it just really felt like we were at a point in society where, like, we were like celebrating gender non-conforming men. We had like David Bowie and Prince, and they were like beloved icons, you know.
Yeah.
And then we just
I was with that, like, and then it's like the trans thing happened. It's like we went back like 10 years.
I know. And now it's like people are like wanting to bring back this like hard line. And like you said, I understand where that's coming from, but I agree with you. I think as long as we really preserve and keep a firm boundary around women's only spaces, then women will always have the right to retreat and a space to retreat away from, you know, men who are making them feel uncomfortable, and can have their own groups and things like that. And again, if women don't want to have to deal with men or what they wear or worry about what they wear, then they can literally create their own, you know, women's only events and things like that. Then we don't have to differentiate at all. You know, we don't have to worry about whether or why they're wearing whatever they're wearing and for whatever, you know, if that's something that like makes us uncomfortable. And for me, the biggest issue with Phil Illy, it's like, I think that adults, there could be spaces for adults to even do their adult things, right? Because I still want to live in a pluralist, free society, but we need to have spaces, like there's a time and a place for certain things, right? Yes. It's like we always knew that cross-dressers existed. We always knew that like people, you know, had fetishes, and that's why there were fetish clubs. That's why there were these, you know, little like hotel parties amongst like, you know, adult guests that were like gate kept and kept in their space. And that was it. It wasn't like, okay, now we're going to just go out and you know, I'm going to go teach a 5th grade class in this outfit, and everybody has to pretend like that's okay. Yeah,
like, and that's the thing too I thought about, because it's like with teachers, for example, like, cause like Debbie Hayden, it's like, it's not like what he's wearing is necessarily like inappropriate, like it would be fine on a woman, but it's just, I guess just knowing that he admitted he's out of NFL doesn't help things, but it's just, yeah, it really does, like, you know, time and place. It's like, can I think of like, what if I was a teacher? Like, would I still look the way I do if I was like a teacher or anything like that? And I'm like, I feel like I would probably just dial it down a little bit, like, you know, do little things that show off my style just a little bit, but not like, you know, too far into it. But yeah.
All right, so let's check out because I want again because I just think it's important to kind of understand like the gender nonconformity versus. So I'll show yours and then I'll show a little bit of I have this one like AGP compilation. So I think seeing it side by side, we can start to like get a sense of like why it's clear that one is not like the other. Well, let's see. Let's pull up because I was looking through your lookbook. And you do, and these are thoughtful outfits, and they fit in with like a subculture, like you're into like goth subculture and stuff, and not every woman's gonna be like co-signing of it, right? Not every woman is gonna be comfortable with it, and that's why it's important to have women's only spaces for women who just don't want to deal with any form of male sexuality, right?
Yeah, you sit on the street, like you don't have to stay for like a second, and you just go about your day. So, like
right. Right. Rather, and I think the problem was it was the like in pushing people onto other people. And the same thing with gay men who just don't want to deal with women for any reason, don't want to deal with women or their opinions about stuff or whatever. Then we have, gay men spaces, don't want to deal with straight men, don't want to deal with women. It's like people should allow the freedom of association to say that this is a space for this and, create other spaces if you want other things, but like this is for us to deal with our needs and be able to like curate the space the way that we want to curate it.
Like essential breathing room.
Yeah, exactly. It's important. Please put your body. And this was becoming like accepted. Like we were at a place where this was fine, and then it was because these were men that men were doing it. And then I think it was like once they started to push on us the idea that like, oh no, these men are actually, if they're so good at dressing, then they actually literally become women, and now you gotta alter your understanding of who you are as a woman to become. And that's when all of a sudden it was like, and it really almost created a lot of pushback against like gay men, and I think that's really important. And he's fit in with a full idea. He's fit in with like.
Yeah,
right. So like that feels to me a lot different than Phil Illy, and it's like again, what do we do with that?
Yeah, I just think it's just
without penalizing like culture and expression, right?
Yeah, like I said, I just think the best middle ground is just prohibit men from entering women-only spaces, no matter what they identify as, no matter how they look. Just keep all of them out, and hopefully that go back to the way it was like 2000s. Or well, I mean, I know that there have always been these kind of men who would invade women-only spaces. I just feel like it wasn't like I don't think it was like on probably a grandiose scale like it is now, but I just feel like just keep them out, arrest them if they overstep that boundary. I had something in my mind about this.
I think it's also just stop with the gaslighting. That way, women and mothers and teachers and people who are responsible for the safeguarding of vulnerable people don't have to play these games where they're like telling themselves in their mind, like, oh no, am I being like transphobic or am I being some kind of a phobe by feeling a certain way? It's like if you have like stop gaslighting people out of their internal alarm. So that like Carol said, she said, look, we all know the difference between gay men cross-dressing and straight dudes doing it, right? And it's true. And it's like, if we just stop gaslighting people, we'll allow them to at least not have all of these like, stupid mantras in their head. They're like, oh, you're a phobe if you're feeling uncomfortable. So that when that alarm rises inside of them, when they see somebody, they can know, what, there's probably a reason why I'm feeling this way. Let me move away, rather than feeling like, no, I need a virtue signal by pretending like I'm totally okay with this one person. It's like you don't even need to necessarily identify why it makes you feel uncomfortable. It's like sometimes you just know that it does, and there's sometimes a really good reason for that, right?
Yeah, like I just say that you're not bad for having those feelings. Like, just especially if you have children around you. Like you're just trying to protect them. And God, what was I?
This one I think is just the most complicated. Like of all the things that I knew that we were going to discuss, I was like, I know that this is the most complicated part. Because again, even it was true. Somebody was like, well, why did people get mad at Shapeshifter? I want to find this picture of what Shapeshifter was wearing to the Gen Spec con. Oh, wait, you know what? I think hold on.
Okay. I think I have seen a picture, but yeah, it'd be good to see it again.
Yeah, hold on. Let me, like there was one where it had, like, his whole outfit. And it's like, go ahead.
Like, with Shapeshifter too, like, I think he does the same thing that I do. Like, he has looks in mind that I don't think an autogynephile would, go through all the effort to look that way.
Right.
Yeah, like it looks very funky. But
oh my God, yeah, Isaac. Yeah. And so, and again, I think as long as we're not gaslighting people with all of this, like, hyper pro trans and like super acceptance and no prejudice at all, and it's like it's prejudice is actually not a bad thing. It's okay to look at something and say, you know what, at first glance I'm seeing some red flags here, and because again, as human beings, we need to be able to make snap judgments sometimes. And I think the difference between like a prejudice, like, because prejudice just means prejudge, right? Just a quick prejudge something. And I think when it moves into something that's toxic or bad is when you don't allow new information about that person to augment your first initial instinct, right?
Yeah, it's like actions speak louder than words. Because because I look like, well, not this outfit, but like I look like this when I go to my day job and stuff, and it's a customer service job, and like I've had some people like they see me and I can tell that they feel uncomfortable, and like they won't like approach me because like I work like a front desk kind of job, so I have to check people in with 2 other people. So they look at me, I can see like the look on their face, and they just go to the next person. And I'm like, I try not to take it too personally. It's like just they're not used to all this. They have their thoughts about it, and like it's whatever. Because like for people maybe wondering, like, yes, I do look like this in my day-to-day life when I go out and stuff, and like I have.
wonder if like, the trans thing has like, do you feel like that's always been the case, or I wonder if the trans thing has like put people even more kind of on guard, because I feel like it's caused like a pushback where people are like, I don't even want to, if they're not sure what you identify as or something.
Oh, you mean like with the regular public, like whether it's trans or not, like they.
Yeah, like, people ever like think that maybe you're trans and they're like, I don't even want to deal with it. Like,
bring it up. Yes, like in my day job, for example, like I've had people like they call me Miss, they call me Ma'am, like because I work at a gym, so like some ladies like they'll come up to me saying that, oh, like they need some assistance in the ladies' locker room, and I'm like, oh, I'm not a woman though. Like I'll get.
Like it's crazy that we were at this part where people have gotten so indoctrinated as to be like, oh, like just because this person is gender non-conforming, that means they're literally a woman, and I can bring them into the woman world. Like that would never even be like, again, in the 90s. Sorry, I'm like so congested. In the 90s, it would have just been like, no, this is a man who's gender non-conforming, and so I'm going to go find a woman to ask for help in the women's room.
Yeah. And it's sad too, because like I remember like this young girl, I think she was, I want to say like she was 19 or 20, and like she had a really deep voice, and like she had a natural haircut. I'm like, oh, I feel like I know what she is and stuff. And she asked me, oh, by the way, like what are your pronouns? Like I was like, because I don't mean to offend you if I call you sir, and so I'm like, oh no, I'm a guy. And he's like saying, oh okay, yeah, because I'm non-binary, and I'm like, I have to fight back. I was like, oh.
Cool.
No, I'm not paid for my opinions at my job, because also like we have like trans identifying men, like it's just I've seen them on Grindr, for example, like come in and they go to the ladies section, and I'm like, every time
I was saying there's trolls. Who's trolls? Let me see. Hold on. Wait, someone tell me who the troll is. I see Shinobu. Sorry. Let's see who are the trolls. I don't see any troll. Oh, Gia. Why is this like a trans person? Oh, Gia. Are they being annoying? All right, Gia, you're out of here. But you are out of here. Anyway, go ahead.
But yeah, so like that's what I'm saying too. Like, with HSTS, they say that they quote unquote pass better than like the AGPs, and it's like, well, after being in a place where I see a lot, well, not a lot, but like there are like 4 that come to the place I work at, and they're just so obvious because you just know, like, how they move, their voice, their faces, and too, because like when I see them on like the gay sites, and like they filter the hell out of their pictures, so I'm like, yeah, it's like looking at 2 different people. But yeah, every time that they come in, I see them going to the ladies section, I just have to like bite my tongue and just be like, you shouldn't be going in there, sir. But I'm not paid for that, and I do like my job, all things considered. So I just keep it to myself, even though like it can be hard sometimes. But like, yeah, that young woman though, is just, her voice is so deep, so I know she was taking testosterone too. I felt so bad because like she's jeopardizing her health, and you're not even like 30 and stuff. So yeah,
it is. Testosterone is so hard on. Again, it's like if testosterone has like when things have such a huge impact on your body that you can see visually like these immediate, these changes again between like your voice and your like facial hair and even the way your skin changes. If that's just the superficial stuff, imagine what it's doing to like your insides.
Right. And it's like they don't think about that until it's too late. And it's just so sad because I really do need to look more into this. Like, I need to see for sure if like when they're having these young people come in to validate their non-binary or trans identities, like, do they let them know all of the risks that's going to happen to them when they start taking the HRT or the testosterone? Like, I have to look into this more to just be sure, because like I feel like they don't go over everything. Like maybe they give you a docket that you got to look through, and like you're so excited to have your identity validated that you just don't care. You just science.
We went undercover at a gender clinic. Me and another TERF went undercover at a gender clinic, and we were pretending that she's like a gender non-conforming lesbian, and we're like, this will be perfect because and we'll go in, and like I was like, yeah, I'm here for my boyfriend here, and he wants to get started on like transition. They're like, great, oh, wonderful. And like it's like the way that they like start love bombing you like from the gate. And like, oh, this will be great. They're like, we'll make the process a breeze. And it was like handing us all this information, and we actually like recorded some of it, but I'm like, we're trying to figure out how to release it so we don't get in trouble.
Right. But, yeah. That reminds me of like Isaac Uncooked video too. Like, even though I don't know what's going on with him, but like when he did the gender clinic video, like it was very telling. Like, there's blind affirmation, lots of positive reinforcement, with not much pushback. Yeah, it's unfortunate. Yeah,
it is. It really is. And then another thing that I wanted to, and I don't know, like you said that, I know that you said that you don't have like a ton of knowledge of this, but even if you have any kind of like, surface knowledge, people have been interested in hearing the topic of like the yaoi, like the sort of boy love thing, and sort of, how gay men are being like fetishized in certain like kind of like anime subcultures, and how that might be leading to this rise in like the whole like heterosexual, like the possible like autoandrophilia thing. It's like the heterosexual trans-identified female is such an odd phenomenon to me. Like, what is your insight on that, if any?
So like I said, I'm not too well versed in it, but from what I've noticed, like with yaoi, like it's mostly made by women, and like I noticed too that not a lot of gay men really find it appealing, because just the way that the characters are written, it just feels like a woman wrote him. Like the feminine male character, he's just very, very super submissive, and the domineering partner just very dominating, and like
so very heteronormative.
almost abusive even. I mean, for myself, like, because of the kind of person I am, like, I do kind of sympathize with like the feminine male characters and how they're written. Like, I don't find it a problem, but I just noticed that a lot of gay men don't really like that, and I feel like it's like these women are projecting their fantasies of how their ideal, like their ideal self into the submissive character, and I'm not sure why they find like gay men so appealing. I guess maybe because it's taboo, or taboo maybe, but because another thing too I noticed is that like there's another genre in that the anime world. It's called bara, and bara is created by gay men, and it's like by gay men for gay men. And I noticed that not a lot of these girls or these women like that genre, so it's very interesting that like people feel as, I guess, comfortable looking at the gay male perspective, and they prefer more reading the female perspective that's writing these.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's an interesting way to think about it. One thing that like somebody had said that was really, it's interesting because I've never read anything about it, and I didn't know like, and I'll pull up the Wikipedia page just so people know a little bit more about what we're talking about. But like, so somebody had said this one comment about heterosexual women who transition to kind of like appropriate gay men and become a gay man, that maybe some of the reason they do it was so that they are like alleviated of having to play like the submissive female role, where they're being like very sexually objectified, and where they can kind of like bring back some of like, like they felt like they like kind of see gay men as being like more equals, and then they can kind of like feel like they're like on an equal field with the men that they're with. But then it's interesting that you're saying that yaoi still invokes a lot of like the sort of heteronormative, like dominant submissive roles.
No, I think you brought up a good point on us, actually, like how these girls are projecting onto these characters, like because also not performing femininity for one, like like the makeup and the long hair and all that stuff, and so they confide in this fictional feminine male who is not. He still has a androgynous kind of look where he's not overtly masculine but not overtly feminine either, and I feel like they find comfort in that image. And that's why they get drawn to it. Because like I'm trying to think if I'm sure there are some that do identify with the domineering partner. Maybe that's
I was going to say that could be true too. Maybe that like maybe they see themselves as the domineering partner, and then like they have the the man that they're interested in is the more submissive. Because it was like, I don't know if you watched my one video about Laura Becker. God, let me see if I'll pull this up really quick. I don't know if she still has it up, and it's super low, the audio. And somebody had sent me an audio fix version, but I don't. Where she basically was saying how she fantasizes about. She goes, I fantasize about making love to a twink, and she goes, "Is that weird?" And she talks about like being an autoandrophile and how she fantasizes about. And it's like, I don't know if that's the same as autoandrophilia. I feel like autogynephilia also has just a lot of like me making love to myself sort of thing. Whereas I feel like what she's experiencing is wanting to be the dominant partner in a heterosexual relationship, like as a female, like being the dominant partner with like a submissive male almost.
Right. No, that's a good point. And I guess maybe she felt some discomfort because it's not what you tend to see in real life. Like, it's not the standard. And maybe that's what gives her some insecurity about that. And so again,
maybe she feels like gay men are the closest example that she has to something like that, where it's like two men, where she can actually see like effeminate gay men are the only, like the closest example that like these women can find of the type of men that they're actually interested in. And it's like, like as
it's funny too because like, so I'm not sure if you know the term femboy.
Yeah.
I noticed in like the community, like at least on Reddit from what I saw, that a lot of femboys are into women and stuff, and they have trouble finding girlfriends. So it's it's just like these girls would be perfect for them, like, you know, if they could find him. But
That's such a whole interesting thing too. Like you said, it's like there's a lot of like, and I remember like people got mad. I guess I think it was like what was it? Not mad, but like I think like Carol or somebody was saying that like butch is specifically a lesbian term, but like so for lack of a better term, and I don't know that tomboy even quite cuts it, because tomboy to me is always just like the sporty, like whatever kind of girl. But like the idea of like what would be like a whatever the heterosexual counterpart to like a butch woman would be, but who are heterosexual. Like I know a few of them who you're almost surprised when you find out, you're like, oh, you're straight, you know, and they're with men. And it's this idea of like being heterosexual, but then like, you know, really gender non-conforming still at the same time.
right, yeah, I do see where Carol's coming from. Like, I don't call like straight masculine women like butch myself, because I just feel like it's too ingrained with like, you know, lesbian culture. But yeah. It's sad like there is no word for that. This is why I'm saying, like, this is why it's so sad that non-binary is such a loaded phrase, because that could have been a good term to use for that.
I know. If non-binary could have just meant in terms of like non-binary expression, you know, rather than like even like not saying gender non-conforming, because it's like, or it didn't literally mean that you're biologically non-binary, but you're non-binary in the sense that you're not, you know, artistically or like culturally or expression, you know, non-binary. Like here, there's really quick. There was like she talks about this, and again, this is really low. I just wanted to run it by you really fast. Hold on. It's okay. Oh wait, hold on. Sorry, I gotta. One thing about this though is gotta switch this out. Oh, hold on. And then we'll run this last thing. What your thoughts are really fast. Okay, so this was Laura Becker. This is the woman who was in the like Phil Illy picture. And so I'm gonna leave the closed captions up. It's really hard to hear her, but hopefully you guys can try.
Probably. My still based. I use the jerk off instead of making love to taste. Just saying, you know, that's reality, is it? Really anyway. Really in it. I don't think people.
I mean, yeah. So you know, I just think that like, I don't know.
It sounds like maybe she may have been really attracted to gay men, but every guy that she found attractive happened to be gay, and she feels that the kind of guy that she's into doesn't exist in the straight world. Even though I'm sure they may be rare, but they're out there.
I think so too.
But yeah, like, 'cause that's sad. But
and it is hard. I guess, like, you know, I guess in like final words and things like that, what sort of messages, you know, would you want to put out there for other gender non-conforming, you know, gay boys or young lesbian girls or whatever, people who are kind of confused about like I just think like you said, and as you pointed out, the whole Blair White thing I think is such a tragic, bad example, because he kind of shows these pictures of like when he was like Robbie Fagatron, like talking about how like unsuccessful he wasn't dating and he was having so many, you know, issues, and then once I transitioned, now I have this huge platform and I'm being invited on Joe Rogan, and you know, look at all these comments about how like hot I am and I'm having all this success. You know, what kind of like messages like would you want to leave to people who are like just confused about what the best course of action is for them?
So it's tough because like how my life turned out, like, you know, because I've never been in a relationship. I don't have a dating history. So my life is a little on the lonely side, especially when I came out as gender critical or pro reality / gender critical. And I've lost a lot of people in my life once that happened. Not that I had a big social network before, but I can say it's tough. But I do think that it's worth living in reality because at the very least, even if it's not always easy, you still have your peace of mind knowing that you are being yourself and you're not trying to be something that you're not or never can be. And that ideally with time it'll gain some more acceptance and you'll find some people that will accept you for as you are, regardless of how you are, gender non-conforming or not. But yeah, like I said, it's tough because, like I said, no, I'm alone in my life right now, or not alone, but I just don't have a booming social network. So I'm sure people can look at that and be like, well, you're living in reality, but like, what do you have to show for it? And it's like, well, I have my peace of mind, because, like I said, especially for like the young effeminate boys watching this, it's like if you go down the trans path and you do, find those people, especially a love in your life, like they're gonna hold you to such a ridiculously high standard that they would not put on a woman because they know that they're with a woman. So like you're gonna have your work cut out for you, and it's just, do you really want to put yourself through that? Would it be worth it? So I just think that's something to think about. But I just think that there is some, I can't think of the right word, but there's a calmness that comes with self-acceptance, and it's always worth pursuing, even in the difficult times. Like, it's okay to, have your venting moments and just, close off to yourself, to self-reflect on things and, build up your mental fortitude to get back out in the world and just continue facing life head on with all the bad, but there'll be some good moments too. And yeah, that's just,
I think it's so true. And I think another thing that's important too, just to remember, and as you brought up, men like Blair White doesn't exist, right? Blair White is a concept, that Robert White has created. He doesn't even look like Blair White, the Blair White that you're seeing on the screen, like, Kai was explaining. He uses these elaborate techniques to create an illusion. There is no Blair White, and that might be, and if you really read between the lines, when you look at people like Blair White and you think, wow, if I could just be like that, then all of my troubles will be solved, and all of my problems as a gay man can just go away, and I can just finally live this fulfilling life. You really read between the lines, like Blair is not happy. He's really does not seem happy to me, and a lot of other people have picked up on that. He doesn't seem, and like you said, he won't dialogue with people who are able to really call him on his shit. And I think because of that, like the same reason why they say that misgendering is violence, because it kind of brings them out of that delusional like bubble that they've built for themselves. And on the other side of them is a lot of like sadness and insecurity and non-self-acceptance. And he's not going to age as a woman, right? He's not going to grow into ever being a woman. Like the reality is only going to continue to like get closer and closer. So just really be careful about what sort of influences you're digesting from the internet, and remember that what you're seeing is a very curated facade that is being very carefully crafted, and you're only seeing these like very curated like cropped clips that they want you to see, and then they cut. You're not seeing the rest of the story.
Yeah, I mean, like he's seen with his boyfriend is he can't even look at pictures of him when he was a little boy. So that's awful. Like, yeah.
That's really sad. It is. It's like because it's a reminder of who he actually is. And this is a person who's supposed to love you more than anything. Can't even look at reminders of who you actually are.
Yeah.
And then I guess the one other thing that I wanted just to add on to that too, it's like, I think that because we're in this like we have more connectivity than ever before. And I mean, look, you and I would not have been able to sit here and have this conversation as if we're like two old friends in a room. We've never even met. And I was like, oh, it's Kai. Like, I know, you know what I mean? Like, I've already, you know, I'm familiar with your ideas and I've already seen your face. And it's like weird to realize like we've never actually met. We never actually sat in a room together, even though it feels like we've just been sitting and hanging out for the past 2 hours, right?
Right.
And people need to realize that we are more connected and we have more access to more people than ever before. And it almost causes the paradox of too many options where we think that like we become sad if we don't have a million different people chasing after us, thinking that that's how it's supposed to be. You're supposed to be able to have all these things. But at the end of the day, like the goal is really just that one person, right? You could eventually, you don't need to attract a million different people. You just need to attract the one right one. Right. So it's like, that's why you don't need to go take all these like additional, you know, steps to now be more attractive to more people, you know, because that's not going to actually lead you to happiness. You just need to attract the one right one. And then
and like there's a lot, I can't lie, like especially if you're a gay effeminate man, like, you know, with all the like I said, the no femmes, the mask for mass and stuff, like it can seem very, very bleak and hopeless, but there are guys out there, I'm sure, that will like you for you. You just gotta just keep your head up and just keep going. And like, just don't, it's so easy for me to say, like, just don't fall for the ideology, because like we've seen that it has on the surface benefited some people, but it's all surface level. You're not really seeing what's going on internally. Like, you know, it's always a mental struggle. Like going back to Blair, it's like if you have to feel the need to use filters and body filters and face filters and have to present yourself in a certain way at all or at most times. And also the plastic surgery addiction, because it's just like the breast and the face. It's not true self-acceptance. And I'm not trying to shame people that you know get that stuff done, but it's just with him, it's like all that money he put on the cosmetics and whatnot, he could have been using for like real cognitive therapy to really get to the root of his problems. And so even though, like, you know, as a gay man looking at a gay man, I see the problem and stuff. And like, because the thing too, that there really is no real solution. Like, you know, as far as like the dating problems go, it's like, cause you can't force someone to like you. But, you know, you just got to keep trying and you'll eventually find people that will accept you. And, yeah, I really don't want to see more like young effeminate guys going on this path and doing things that can really hurt them before they're like, you know, in old age and they have a life. They have to live out the rest of their life regretting what they did, and they could have just accepted themselves as they are. And same with the masculine women too. Like the testosterone, just don't take it.
oh my God, I know.
The maternally is just not worth it.
It's crazy to see how much change happens just in the span of like 5 months. I was watching this one, like we were going through this one YouTuber who was doing like, I guess like weekly updates for like the first year of testosterone, and like the voice difference and like already the differences like within the first 5 months was like staggering.
Right.
You know,
also like if you get your breast amputated, it's like you're going to be dealing with potential, was it a post nipple pain syndrome or pain? And like they don't tell you about that, and like it's just I would recommend it. Just do your research and really think critically if you really can deal with a life like that where the surgeries don't work. I'm just going to be honest here. Like they just destroy the body. They don't help it. They destroy it. And once you go through with it, and this is why I feel so bad for Shapeshifter, because he got his, you know, the penis inversion, and it's like, what can you tell him to make him feel better? Like he can't reverse it. And it's just so sad because you want him to feel, you know, better again. And I'm sure he'll get there. I hope he gets there, but it's just, you can't really say anything more to help with a situation like that. So that's why I really hope that, you know, the youth too, like listen to his story and just try not to go down that same path. Like don't make that same mistake. And I hate calling it a mistake, but because I know he's very like sensitive about this. But it is what it is, and I just hope that people listen to him and others like, you know, the men and the women who are speaking out about these surgeries, the reality of them and what it really does to your body. Yeah, I just
Right.
if it's just looking bleak for gender nonconformity, and
I know. And that's why I really wanted to hear from you, because it's like, Jesus, it's like, it's just more attacks, I think, and now again, the pendulum's starting to swing and people are really trying to put down these hard boundaries. But then I feel like you get stuck in the middle, like a lot, with all of this, whether it's from the trans side or the gender critical side. And it's like, and again, even now it calls for, penalizing, gender nonconformity and stuff. And it's like you said, like, I understand the sentiment and why people are so feel like they have to take those. But then it's like, I don't want, people like you to be punished because of all of this stuff, and to not be able to live your own happy, like, free life of expression. And that's sad. It's not what the point of any of this was ever supposed to be.
Yeah, and I reiterate, like, if Karen's watching this or Vanessa, like, I have no ill will towards you. I understand where you both are coming from. I just, because I remember, like, especially with Vanessa, I remember we had a, I guess we could say friendly debate, because she was just accusing me of having a fetish, and that's why I wear my skirts and stuff, because I'm doing it for a fetish. And I was trying to tell her, no, that's not what I'm doing. Like, I don't get the feels when I'm, like, wearing it out. I just do it for, like, I think it looks pretty and stuff. So I do understand where it's coming from, though. Like, the autogynephilia can be a hard thing to, differentiate, and it starts warping your mind. And it just, I do understand it. And, like, I don't hate them or anything like that. Like, I understand. So I just really want to make that clear, because there are some people that think that I don't like these two people after they've spoken on that. And it's like, no, I understand it. And I just hope we can get to a good middle ground where hopefully we can go back to the way things were before trans just swooped the nation and took over most.
Well, and that's the thing, even like with that, and I think about it, it's like, because even like for me, for example, it's like the fact that like you and I are essentially like attracted to the same type of like men, right? It's like it's like, so it makes sense that like, I like wearing dresses, like I like wearing makeup, you know what I mean? And like it's again, it's probably because it's like we want to be attractive for the people that we want to be attractive for, and that's normal and okay, right? Whereas like again, that's why it's like the stuff with like fetishes and paraphilias is so complex and tricky, because the ideology is really different. It's not about being attractive, it's not about like being beautiful for who you want to be beautiful for. It's that they get this like weird sexual like thrill of like really what it's like wearing like women's like clothing and violating the clothing.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
With the panties and the stockings. Yeah. Right. Again, like it's like what you said, like the difference between the autogynephile and the HSCS is like, I don't get a thrill wearing what I wear. I just wear what I like. Whereas I feel like with these guys, it's like they're dressing for the fetish. They whatever gets them hard. And like what Mr. Menno brought up in his like dissection of trans ideology or the AGPs is like they're trying to get the most intense, natural, hard fuck.
Yeah, and it's like that kind of like ownership. Like I can like own and be like just morph, like it's like an osmosis into women, and like really just the full objectification of them. That it's like this thing that I'm like wearing on my body and becoming, and like I just think that it's like it's different. And like you said when you were like these treatments, these transgender medicalization does not work. You are not getting a vagina. Sorry, my sinuses are so bad. You're not getting a vagina, and really think hard. It's like, again, it's like, and like Kai is saying, especially already having like a minority sexuality, and a very minority sexuality, it can feel like sad and lonely when you realize you are working with a smaller dating pool, and it is going to require like more getting out there, persistence and resilience, absolutely, but don't think these shortcuts are not good because take you where you want to go. Because again, if you're attracting somebody who you think, oh, that's what I want, but then you've done all this harm to yourself where you can't even experience pleasure. And what's the point then? You know, you're just robbing yourself of like what the joy of then you're not even getting the prize at the end, the joy of the relationship and the sort of like sexual and physical intimacy that feeds into the emotional intimacy, and they feed each other. And it's this kind of like mutual thing. And you're just self-harming just so that you don't have to be alone. And it's like, once you like get that person, they're not dating you for you. And that's sad after a while. It's not.
Yeah, that's like what you said too, because I was watching your Brianna Ivy video, and I remember you were talking about the guy he ended up with, and like I'm not trying to be mean, like you know, everyone has
all this for that guy. Ew.
That's the thing too. Like a lot of guys are trying to get at me, like you know, because I think I'm okay looking, and like
you are.
Be physically active and stuff, and so like the guys that were coming at me too, like when I was in the dating scene, and you know, I still get today. It's just I can't do it. I'm not attracted.
I feel like bisexual dudes are like some of the creepiest, and I feel like they might be the most like because you know, women are actually in general more likely to be bisexual, whereas men on average are either all gay, all homosexual, or all heterosexual. So I kind of feel like the men who are like bisexual might have like more propensity to like other paraphilias and things like that they're just kind of like more like sexually just like I'll try anything and do like whatever. And it's like, yeah, I don't know, that the whole bisexual dude category is a little.
Well, I think that the like bisexuality can exist with men. It's just that.
Sure, yeah, and that's not. I know some bisexual men who are like cool and normal, so it's not all. I'm just saying. I feel like there's like a subset of like.
Yeah, I just think that it's just like a trans homophobia because like you know I thought about this too, like because I'm gonna be working on a video about this with the bi guys who are going for like feminine men. And I feel like, you know, a lot of bisexual men, unlike us gay men, they can be socialized into heteronormativity because they can be attracted to the opposite sex, and so they go to all most of their life, you know, not thinking they can be attracted to the same sex, and then until they get into like maybe the adult world and they start seeing like guys like me and stuff, and they're like, well, wait a minute, like you don't look like the typical guys. This is interesting, and so I call it the bi awakening that they experience. But they don't know how to process it, and so that's why like they treat us like a fetish because like, you don't get emotionally attached to a fetish object, right? Yeah. So like and that's what they do to us, like guys like myself, and that's why they put us in that category while still pursuing women for dating. And you know, we went over like how that plays into the psyche with the effeminate gay man. Like they feel like, well, I'm seeing them go for these girls, and also too because like, you know, we look at women because like. I remember like people will say, "Oh, our HST is jealous of women," and I feel like they can fall into jealousy towards women because they're seeing women being like their true selves, and still being attractive to the opposite sex or, you know, men, and they want to have that too. But the thing is, because like I think I never really was jealous of women because like when I hear jealousy, I think that it's like you want what the other person has, but and they don't deserve it. Like I don't feel that way. I'm happy that they found someone. So I feel like envy is a better word because it's like I wish I could have what you have too.
But for me, like in the way that it's for me, I don't want what you have. I want that was meant for me. Like, you know what I mean? Like my counterpart of what that is, but that's meant for me and me as me.
Yeah, because like love is a beautiful thing, and like it's always nice to see people find each other and are genuinely in love, and so like that's how I always saw it. It's just I'm happy for you, but I hope maybe one day I can experience it too. Because like it's funny because I see this. How long are we trying to go on for? I don't want to like ramble too much.
I do like 5-hour streams.
Okay.
I can ramble, so go ahead.
Yeah, because like and again, I apologize to the chat. Like, if it all circles back to dating, but it's just when it comes to HSTS, it immediately makes a big portion of why they transition in the first place, and that has with attraction. Because like where I work at, like I work at a gym, so I also obviously come across a lot of guys that I find attractive, for like a better word. But I know I just don't have the I just can't express my interest in a guy that I like because I just don't want to risk that because I don't want to make someone feel uncomfortable. So then I see my female coworkers and like they get to flirt with the guys and the guys flirt with them, and it's just really cute to watch. And it's just like I wish I could do that too. Because like the few times I have tried to express interest in a guy, like the first time, the guy that actually liked my coworker, and so I'm like, oh well, that's great. And they went out and they did their thing. The second time, I said,
Wait, was he gay? Was your coworker a man?
Oh no, she was a woman. She was a woman. And like it's just because I didn't know if he was gay or bi or not.
That's another hard thing too. It's like I think, and that's another, and not to cut you off, but I feel like part of the reason too why gay men and lesbian women do tend to like want to almost signal that they're gay and like kind of like wear it in a way and make it obvious is because it's a smaller dating pool. So it's like easier if you can visually identify like, oh, that guy's probably gay. It's more helpful to be like, oh, I know I could probably flirt with him or at least see, you know what I mean? Because there's something about the way, like the way he's presenting himself that's like, sometimes I think that like when people are like, oh, like, you don't want to make your sexuality your whole personality. And I get that too. But I also kind of understand that because it's a limited dating pool, the need to want to kind of signal like, hey, I'm gay. So if you notice that, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. But what was I going with that? Yeah, and the second time I did it, like again, like the guy thought, because I gave him my number, but I accepted him, and he thought that I was my female coworker or my woman coworker. Was like, no, it's me, and he was like, oh, yeah, no, I don't feel that way. And I'm like, okay, no problem. And then but then what made it worse is that after that, he's been so cold because I have to handle those cars sometimes, and he's very distant because he used to be really friendly before that, and now he's just like distant, and I feel like he's freaked out, and I just feel so bad because I didn't want to do that to a person because I really don't want to make someone feel uncomfortable. So, like I said, I look at my female coworkers that even if the feelings aren't reciprocated, like things tend to still be okay socially. Right. Whereas with me, it's like I just think there's more of a risk where like you can come off like in a way that you don't mean to because you're a guy, especially interested in another guy. So and I kind of feel like other agents or HSTS like they may have been dealing with that in their own lives, and they feel like again like if they just become a woman, like at the very least like it won't be seen as weird if they express interest in a guy, because like I said, a lot of like feminine gay men tend to be more attracted to masculine men, which is, by the way, like I remember like when you were talking about Blair White, you said that he's not attracted to gay men, he's attracted to straight men. I don't think that's necessarily true, because there are masculine gay men, like men that are gay, but you wouldn't know that they were gay unless they told you. Right. And like, it's just that maybe he tried to get at these guys, but again, mask for mask. Like I'm not interested in feminine men, and so I feel like that's why it may look like we seek out straight men, because a lot of them tend to be bi, or the bi ones are kind of like them on the surface. And yeah, I just thought I should mention that.
No, that makes sense. I appreciate that. I mean, I always appreciate. That's why it's so good for me to like talk to different people. Just because I'm not a gay man, so it is helpful to have like actual, your actual like experience and stuff. But guys, hit up Kai. Anybody thinks Kai is cute? Hit him up. Hit him up. How can people get in touch with you in general if they want to like just, reach out to you, or, you have your YouTube channel?
Well, I do have an Instagram, like, Kai Decadence or Kai_Decadence. So if you want to like contact me, you can hit me up through there. I usually check there every other day at least. So I'm also on here on YouTube. I do have a Twitter, but I'll be honest, I don't really go on it that much because Twitter is just it's a hellscape. Like me, like even when I tried to get more active, like on the gender critical side, but I can't. Like these people are just too, or the trans identified people are just too crazy, and I'm gonna get a headache. So that's why I just don't go on Twitter that much. And I also do art. So like I have a DeviantArt, like it'll be Ratchet Jack. That's my username there. And yeah, that's really all I have.
Send me a list of all of your links, and then I'll put it in the pinned comment, and I'll put it in the bio of, so like anything, whether you want like an email address or whatever, all of these links that you have, I'll make sure that it's in the pinned comment and in the bio. So if anybody wants to get in touch with Kai, definitely follow him on YouTube, and Yeah, thank you. This was like people were so excited to hear from you, and it totally delivered. I think that it's so important, and I really appreciate you being like more vulnerable and like transparent at the end there, because I think that that's really relatable, you know. And it's people, it's important for people to understand too that that's like, you know, the reality of like what, you know, people are feeling, and it kind of helps us understand better why people get sucked into things like gender ideology, and it also maybe helps people who are getting sucked into gender ideology kind of take a step back and be like, is this why I'm maybe doing these things? And, you know, I don't need to self-harm, actually.
Yeah, just really think about it before you do anything. And like, I guess what they don't, I don't see this being asked in the gay spaces these days because I think it's transphobic or whatever. But like, if you are a gender non-conforming person thinking about this, like, just ask yourself, if you're in a perfect world where gender non-conforming men and women were not, I don't want to say demonized, but just like not as accepted. Like, let's say in a perfect world they were accepted, would you still be having these feelings? And from there, like, you know, do with that information what you will. But yeah, just that's gonna be clear though. Like, at least where I stand, like, no one can change sex. Like, a man is an adult human male, a woman is an adult human female. Like, you cannot change it. Don't even bother trying to get your genitals fixed because you're just mutilating yourself. And I know that is a very strong word, but it's just after seeing how these surgeries turn out, like even the I call it the phallopene, or no, the Franken. God, I had a name for it, Frankenphallus.
Oh God, I know it is.
It doesn't look good, and like, you're just gonna, if you do plan on having, like, you know, an active romantic life, like, I'm not saying that you wouldn't be able to find someone, but it's gonna be even more or less likely than had you just left things alone. So,
and you'll never experience pleasure the same way. So that alone should just be, you know.
Yeah, I'm just really think about it. Like, I just definitely look like, I remember like in your it was your peak trans video where you showed how they fillet the penis and stuff to make the vagina.
Oh God, that should do it for like anybody. Like, nope, never mind. Nope.
Yeah, come on. I'm sure even Blair knows that it's not a good idea. Like, you know,
that's why he's like, no, hell no.
everyone knows, right? I'm sure. But
I'm sure if he could do it for real, he probably would do it. But no, they can't. That's the reality of it. They cannot make a vagina. It's just a pocket. It's still your penis, and your penis is just never going to be able to function the same way. And then you can't
out there for the rest of your life. And it's just like, you know, could you imagine how that would be? Like, you know, what about, it's been like, what, 7 years? I'm like, you know, I'm just gonna not do it just this one day, and that one day cost you, like, you know, like, it's just, why would you put yourself through that? So just really, really think about that, like, because I know that the trans community, they don't like, you know, how they treat the detransitioners, like, they try to minimize their experiences and whatnot, and it's just really listen to these detransitioners, like, they are the people that found.
Yes. They're the ones who will tell you the truth.
Yes, because don't listen to the TRAs that are trying to drown them out. Like, that's just, they must get some pleasure from, like, people's other misery. Like, you know, misery loves company. So, like, the sanity breaks that. So don't listen to them. Just listen to the detransitioners. Listen to, like, Peak Trans and I mean, not Peak Trans. I meant Shapeshifter and Waffling Willow. She's another one who was a D-trans woman. GNC Central, like, you know, like, they're very real and honest about the reality of the ideology. Like, you know, because I know, again, like I said before, I didn't know if my output would be helpful because I didn't fall for it. I almost did, but I didn't. And so some people say that, well, what do I know, right? But
you know a lot. I mean, I think that means that you had the, you know, critical thinking skills early on to be like, see, you know, through the fray, you know.
I think it just benefited because if I was a kid now, I probably would have, you know, I would have been an HSTS. But I thankfully, like, I'm a child of the 90s. Like, you know, I got to still see some non-conforming girls and boys. Well, not more so girls, but not a lot of boys. But I got to see that to help keep me some sanity. And also, the early 2010s internet scene, like, there were still not pushback, but just, you know, questions of if you really are what you say you think you are. Because, like, that's the thing too, like, on the gay spaces. Oh, that's another thing too, like, working push some effeminate gay men down this path is that like on the gay spaces, like like Reddit, for example, like when a effeminate gay man, or like even on the lesbian side, like masculine girl or lesbian is speaking about their experiences of how they're dealing with hardships, like they get reinforcement from some gay people. And I think that the gay ones that are pushing this on the gender conforming gays, they don't necessarily mean to push us down this destructive path. They just feel like they feel like they're helping, because I think like your life really will improve if you just become the opposite sex. And so yeah, I don't think it's coming from necessarily a malicious place, just ignorant.
Yeah, ignorant. Exactly.
So yeah.
Yep. Well, this is all really good advice. This is who you should listen to, because this is somebody who was able to see above the fray. And Kai, thank you so much for agreeing to come on. I've been so looking forward to this conversation, wanting it to happen. I'm so glad we were finally able to make it happen. Thank you for all your insight and all of your participation on my channel. I really do. I appreciate you so much. And
I just apologize to the chat if how I came off as a little like incoherent. It's just not the best public speaker, but I'm trying to work.
You were great. You were great. You were perfect. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much, Kai. I really appreciate you. And chat, thank you as always. You guys are the best. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And also subscribe to Kai, and I'll get all those links in the description. And we'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye, guys.